Well, hello everybody. We're back for another video. We're getting into some more dirt bikes, which are always fun. And here we have a nice little CRF70F. So it has no clutch, although you still shift it. And it's a little bit smaller than the 80, but a whole lot different than the CRF80. The CRF80's got the next step up motor, and it's also got a clutch. Got double, this has kind of a neat little suspension in it where it's got a single monoshock up in there. And this is going to be a nice restoration. And so let's get going on it. Let's pull this thing and start tearing it down. To give you a background, it does not run. I almost feel like it has no compression. But who knows, it may have a compression release. We're going to have to look into all this good stuff. So this is going to be a fun video. And we're going to tear it down and get this thing stripped so we can get a little bit of gas to the carburetor, maybe try and start it. Now that it's torn down, I can see that there is not a lot of monkeying. All this stuff is all looking factory to me. And I don't think we're going to have issues that way. So now the carburetor is out. And I do notice that someone put a little bit of Yama lube or Honda Bond, I guess. Call it Yama Bond. The gray ATF or ATV, whatever that is, to seal this up. So obviously the rubber is collapsed in that, and we're sucking air. And there's a fair amount of dirt in the bottom. But it doesn't look all that bad. Let's take this float bowl off. See what we got here. Yeah, it just smells bad. It smells like bad gas. Now I did take it to the parts cleaner and I washed it. We're not going to do, we're not going to dip this carburetor. We're just going to take care of it, get it to a running condition. Now what I've got here is the stock pilot jet is 38, stock size, and 38 is in it. The stock size for the main jet is a 60, and a 62 is in it. Now these were not the most, when I was selling these, they're almost, they're Honda. They're not the, I don't believe this one is made in Brazil. This is a key-in carburetor. So the quality is there, but you know, the jetting size can be off a little. Things can be off because they didn't really sell that many of these, and to keep track of everything was a little more difficult. So what we've got to do is I've got this special tool, and as you can see in here, this is not a screwdriver. You see in there, that's not a screwdriver. That's a special screw. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it in and record how many turns. That's the special tool. How many turns I go and record that so I can put that right back to where it was when I would try to start it up. But I want to clean the holes and the fuel runner areas in there. I don't want to leave that in just because it's factory set. I'll get it right back to the same setting. So that's 2.5. All right, so it's out. And looking at the end, you can see it's a little cruddy. and it's got a seal here. So there isn't the typical flat washer and rubber O-ring down there. And it says that in the Rocky Mountain breakdown. They have a $16 gasket set for this whole carburetor, which that's like totally reasonable. So I'm going to order that. The throttle screw is in there. It's backed out 1 7/8 turns. And this one was backed out 2.5 turns. And who knows? I doubt anyone had that tool that's worked on this bike, so that might be factory setting. All right, I've got everything back in, and I took it out and I cleaned with carburetor cleaner every orifice in it. I believe the float is adjusted correctly, because if you roll it till it just hits, this is parallel to that. So I'm not going to mess with that. I think that's good. I got to clean the bottom of this and I can put it back together. All right, the bottom's nice and clean. And say it goes on just like so. And I may or may not, if it runs well when I put it back, I may not do anything to the carburetor, just a cleaning, but I'll know very soon. And if it doesn't, then I will pull it back apart and I will change out all the rubber seals, and I will basically rebuild it, because it's not that tough to take off. All right, so the carburetor's back on here. Kind of looks out of place now because it's clean and the rest is dirty. So I went down to check my spark. And first of all, this is a CR6 HSA, and it calls for CR5 HSA. I think that might be splitting hairs, but I think this should get it running. And so when I went down to grab it and put a wrench on it, it was like that. It was just sitting there. And I think that might be why we don't have any compression. All right, we got it tightened. Let's see what happens. Yeah, still compression seems. So that would have been too lucky. Let's put a little gas in it. Now I did drain all the old gas out, and it was old. That's gonna do it. Okay, I set the choke. I've got the gas on reserve. All right, that ought to be enough to tell if we're getting gas. I'm going to pull that plug now. Well, this is completely dry, and I want to show you the spark because it's got really good spark. Maybe I can put that up there like that. There we go. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see it or not. We've got excellent spark. So I believe the gas tank was at an angle where it's just not getting fuel to the carb. So what I'm going to do, put the spark plug back in. I'm going to leave the fuel on and give it one more try first. And if not, then I'm going to probably have to check the carb float and see if it's stuck or something. I did check the float bowl, and there is gas running out of the float bowl now. It's probably full, but without any compression, then it might not be sucking gas in. That should be enough to tell me if the gas is getting to the spark plug. Okay, so I'm still not getting any fuel on this spark plug. So I'm going to try to squirt down the throat of the carburetor some fuel. All right, I squirted a little down the throat. I'm going to do one more time. And let's check that spark plug. All right, so I checked the plug. There's a little bit of fuel. Yeah, I just don't feel we have a compression. All right, there is no compression. Zero, zero, zero. It all comes out the exhaust. You can feel the air when this is a leak down tester. And so what it does is you hook up air to this and it blows air into the cylinder. And when both valves are closed, it should register a pressure. And that pressure should be about 5 to 10, maybe even 12 on a low compression engine like this. Could be as high as 20 if it hasn't been run in a while, till the valves kind of clean up. But it should really be below 10. So that means that the exhaust valve is stuck open, most likely. All right, I've got the plug out, carburetor off, and the exhaust off. There's a little baby bit of water in there, but not enough for me to worry about anything. All right, so the head is off, and it looks like the exhaust valve is lifted. So it could be bent. There could be something stuck in there. So I'm going to work on getting the exhaust valve out and checking it out. I also pulled the cylinder, and it doesn't look great. We'll assess more of that. We'll assess more of that later. Kind of hard to see, but there's a lot of corrosion. The piston, it almost looks like the rings are just collapsed inside the valleys. So I'm going to pull the piston. I've got this snap ring C-clip out already. I'm going to pull the wrist pin, but there's no play in the crankshaft when you pull it, and I'll do that once I get the piston off. I'll show you how I do that. So now with the piston off, what you can do is grab the connecting rod and just pull it front to rear, and there's no play. If there's play in it, now it can have just a scotch of play left to right, and I don't know if you can see it. But forward to backward, there's no play, and there shouldn't be. Now the piston, this wrist pin has some, You know, it probably, there's some pitting right there. Nope, this has got to be replaced. There's pitting right there. Now let's see the spacing. And there's the crack in the top. Right there. There you see it. There is the spacing in the top. Now that looks like it's completely corroded in there. Let's look for the second ring there. That's more. And these lines, these two spacings, they shouldn't be lined up right next to each other, from what I understand. Now I'm going to check that out. I haven't gotten that far, but so this is not looking good. The cylinder's not looking good. The wrist pin's not looking good. The head's not looking good. So I'm going to have to assess what I'm going to do here, and we will determine what we're going to order. All right, so I've got the head off, and my problem is I don't know exactly how to get this shaft off. There's no access hole back here. There's only one here. I'm sure it's just a sliding, like, wrist pin sort of thing. Then I looked in the manual, of course. If you take an 8mm bolt, you can thread it in and pull it out. So I found the appropriate piece, which looks like a 23mm. So let's see if we can get this spring compressed. And I can see right now I've run out of threads. So it looks like this piece here can thread out. I think that's all I need. Or I can put a larger one in, like so. But I think this will work. So there again, let's run it up. See if I can get enough on that valve stem, on that valve, to compress it. And it's not quite on there centered, I don't think. There we go. There we go. Now that ought to do it. And let's get a magnet and see if we can take out these keepers. Now there's one. Sometimes you gotta push it down a little bit more to get that second keeper out. And a little fiddling. Should just come right out of there. A little more compression. It's really exposed now. Must be just stuck on that valve. There we go. There's our two keepers. Now we're going to see what we got in the way of a valve. And there is the retainer, inner and outer spring, and there is a seat washer. Yeah. Oh, she's bent. She is bent. The valve is definitely bent. So I'll hold it as still as I can. But you can see it. So, establishing that, I cleaned up the surface, and you can see that it had a good seal all the way around, and it doesn't have any chipping on the edges. So I don't know exactly where it bent or how it bent, because I don't see anything on the piston head showing a dent or a mark. I cleaned up the seat itself, and I don't know if this is proper, but I took a Dremel tool and just lightly cleaned up the seat. And now I'm going to take off the intake, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the valve guide. That's all I can really do, is just check the valve guides and see if the intake has any less slop in it than the exhaust. All right, so the intake's out, and the seating surface looks good, looks like it should. Nothing jumping out at me. But it's a little dirty too, so I'm going to clean it. One thing I did notice is that there's corrosion in the intake port. And I'll get a flashlight and look down in there. You can see the exhaust looks good. It just looks carboned, you know. The intake looks like there's a little, almost like water was sitting in there at one time. Put a little penetrating oil on the valve stem, and it went in and out a whole lot better. So it seats right. And now what I want to do is just check how much play is in there. You know, there's almost no play at all. Let me clear that seal. Yeah, there's a little play in that. So there's definitely more play in this exhaust. And I'm going to have to figure out if that's going to be an issue. Well, my decision was a tough one. But basically, I just ordered a complete new head, cylinder, and piston. Now, these are coming from China probably. They're not very expensive. I'm going to just check it out, see what it does. My Zuma scooter kits that are 70 cc's, they've been fine. They run, they pull hard. I don't know about durability because I don't ride that much, but they go together, and I just haven't had many problems at all, if any. So that's what I'm going to do. We've got a new cylinder head and piston and barrel coming. So I made my decision. This is the kit I ordered. It's a complete head, cylinder, Gaskets, piston rings, everything. I've got all the old parts here in the box. I could order a big bore kit. That was another way to go. And then just try to repair the head with a new valve and lap the valve into the old head. But I think I'm going the whole other route. It's coming, so if it doesn't work out, I can still go this route, and I'm only out the $59. It's not a bad deal. So I'm gonna probably end this video right here and pick it up when the parts come in so that you can get at least the first video in. And the bike is stripped down pretty good. I can actually detail a little bit, clean it up. I've drained the oil and waiting for the parts. So there's a number of things I can do. The next video is going to be, like getting grips, getting the key to work again, just going over everything, making sure everything works, and putting the head back together, get it running, and then a final detail. So until the next video, all you guys in Shingletown, this is for the clown, in your neighborhood. That clown that goes around on the little mini bike. Well, this one here, Joe, you could give this to the clown, the Shingletown clown, as long as he's not a streaker. I don't want to, promote anything like that, but if he's just a normal Shingletown guy like One-Eyed Jerry, well, you could probably put some dingle balls on this and dress it up for him, and then he could run around the streets as the town clown. So, Joe, you got to buy this one too. So until next time, we'll see you on the next video.